everyone, and welcome to part 3 in the Alström Heart series. This episode, Professor Rick Steeds will be exploring the different tests which are available and also the signs and symptoms to look out for. We hope you enjoy this episode. And also remember, you can find further information on our website, www.alström.org.uk.
In adult clinics at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, most adult patients are seen about once a year. I wondered if you could talk about a little more about the tests that you do, such as your cardiac MRI, etc., and what it is you're looking for. I know there are kind of about 3 or 4 tests you'll do for the heart.
So I would have to be perfectly honest up front to everybody, is that when I first became involved in people with Alström syndrome, I wasn't sure, and there didn't seem to be a lot in the literature published about what specifically happened to the hearts. There was a paper from Jan Marshall in 2005 that suggested everyone got scarring and fibrosis. And I wanted to do several tests on everybody coming in so that I could see how many people were affected by scar and how quickly it changed over time. So we started off by doing pretty much all the tests to pick up fibrosis every year. And we've gradually sort of backed away from that. Out of the tests that we do, the 2 simple ones that are very good screening tests, we measure something called NT-proBNP, which is the proper name is N-terminal pronatriuretic peptide, and it's a hormone which is something that's metabolically active. It does something in your body and it's released into the bloodstream, and it does something, but it reacts to stress on the inside wall of the heart, and it's quite a good biomarker of saying, oh, hang on a moment, you need to do some more tests. So we tend to measure NT-proBNP in everybody, and I think that's a good thing to have pretty much every year. We do also measure high sensitivity troponin, which is a breakdown blood marker that actually most people use to detect heart attacks. Now, we're not using that to detect heart attacks, but sometimes it could be a sign that there's some inflammation in the heart. And I don't think that has been particularly useful in the Alström patients, but we are still checking that and looking at that. The 12-lead ECGs are really good, simple, easy tests. So you lie down quietly on a couch, have to sit still, and you get a sticker, 6 stickers across your chest, a sticker on your shoulders and on your ankles, and then you have leads that give you a look into how your heart works. At the moment, we've just done a simple 12-lead ECG. Maybe in the future, there is increasing interest in using digital ECGs acquired over 5 minutes. And with very, very clever statistical analysis, you can look at the way that your heart and your pacemakers respond to how you breathe. And that gives you an idea, an insight into, for example, the function of your autonomic nervous system, which is the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems that people might have learned about at school, as they're the nerves that do the fright or fight responses in your body. And they're the background nervous systems that tell your bones what to do, and your arteries what to do, and your veins what to do, all the way through your body. So we do a 12-lead ECG. We also do an ultrasound scan, a heart scan called an echocardiogram. And that's a very simple, very it's completely free of risk. It's the same sort of technology that you use to scan babies in mummies' tummies. And so it carries no risk to the person having the scan or to the person doing the scan. And those ultrasound waves give beautiful pictures of your heart muscle size, your heart muscle function. It'll look at the valves and their valve function. It'll look at the size of the primer pumps, the atria. It'll look at the size of the main tubes called the aorta. And it works out whether everything's working as it should do. It gives you... Yeah.
So Do you get that picture in 3D?
No, so you don't. You can do. It's usually at the moment we use 2D. We do have 3D probes across the department. The problem about the 3D probes that we have at the moment is that they're limited by the physics properties of the ultrasound, and they're just for technical reasons not quite so good in people who are a bit larger than usual, and that often happens in Alström patient people, and people with Alström can have slightly worse echo pictures than you would expect, which is why as a backup we've always done cardiac MRI, which again is risk-free, doesn't carry any danger to the person having the scan or the person doing the scan. It doesn't use x-rays, but it works on excitation of your protons in your body, in all the atoms of your body are aligned by magnetic pulses that are stronger than as strong as the magnetism from the Earth's core, competes with the Earth's core. And that also produces beautiful, mostly 2D pictures, but they can now be reconstructed into 3D images and give you, again, very good idea, not only about the heart structure, the function, the valves, the tubes around it, but gives us the extra capacity, and this is why I really want to do it. It gives us the extra capacity with dye. We can see whether there is some fibrosis or scarring forming in the heart, and you can also see whether that is where that is, whether it's within the cells or outside the cells. And that's been a tool that we've really tried to look into and use in detail in Alström to track. And actually, having done those more frequently at the start, so everyone I think that comes to the UK service got very used to having it done every year. But I think over the time we've realised that it is a real big thing for people who can't hear quite so well and can't see quite so well to go in the tunnel, because you have to time your breathing with the scanner. So it's quite hard work for about 30 to 45 minutes. And things don't change that quickly. And so we use it as a backup if we think something has changed on the echo scan. But otherwise, we probably like to do it certainly once in everybody, because it gives us an insight about whether or not you've got fibrosis. And at the moment, then we're now trying to repeat these every 3 to 5 years, but we've dropped down because things just don't happen as quickly as we thought they might do, or were worried that they might do.
You mean things don't change as quickly? Is that what you mean?
Correct. Yeah.
So does that mean if you can do those pictures that are clear, does that mean you can compare the size of hearts, taking into account things like age and gender and things like that? Can you compare the size of hearts within our Alström population?
Oh yes, definitely, absolutely, yes, and we can. And the most useful thing is that because echo relies mostly on 2D images, and you have to orient the planes of the scan, you can get slightly different results in the same person just from getting the position that's slightly different. And so you get much more ability to detect smaller changes over time with the MRI. And that's why we're still doing them every 3 years at the moment, because it still gives us really good long-term data about the trajectory of change or the changes. And we don't think things happen quickly, and people who are stable and well, things don't seem to happen too much. And of course, people can become unwell quickly. And then what we're trying to do is trying to work out whether or not there are any signals for somebody becoming poorly.
Okay, that's the next question I was coming on to actually was in terms of, I guess, information and advice to perhaps parents and carers of what kind of key signs are there that there may be an issue.
So
what would you tell people to look for?
So the thing that I would want you all to look out for would be struggling to do things that you would normally do. Now, this is what I tell any of my patients, because most patients who have heart problems or are developing heart problems notice this first. And that is a change in your ability to exercise, to do the things that you would normally do. Now, some of the people that I look after with Alström are extremely fit and exercise to a very high degree, which is great. But I would still pay attention to them if they came. I use the example I usually use. I've got a patient in their mid-90s, and he swims for Britain. He doesn't have Alström Syndrome, but he swims for Britain in the Veteran Olympics. And he had a problem with one of his valves. He came to me and he said, Rick, I usually do the 100 meters in X time, and now I'm doing it in Y time, and it was only like 5 or 10 seconds slower. And you think, okay, but to him, that's a significant change. To other people who don't do very much exercise, if you can walk up a flight of stairs, but then suddenly find that regularly you absolutely have to have a stop halfway up, that's important to tell somebody. Now, it might not apply over Christmas when you've just gone out and eaten half a turkey and quite a lot of spuds and nice greens and everything, where of course anyone has difficulty walking halfway up the stairs because you're so full. But that's a change, when there is no other obvious explanation. Something that we tend to ignore, and because I think it's almost, it's such a generalized symptom that it's completely useless, is tiredness. People often get very worried about feeling exhausted or tired, and that's not the same thing. It's not the same sign as being physically short of breath and unable to carry on, which is what I'm really looking for with the shortness of breath. If you have narrowings of the coronary arteries, another thing that I would want people to look out for would be a heavy chest tightness. So one of my friends has recently developed a problem with narrowing of the arteries, and he said there's no doubt in his mind about what was happening when he came to him. So this is not something that you miss. This is like a brick in the middle of your chest, or somebody's described it, it's like having somebody stood in the middle of your chest. And it would come on when you were doing things. So example, running to play, or running for a bus, or forgetting your glasses and having to walk back up a flight of stairs, or forgetting that you put down your phone or something. And then getting this heaviness in your chest, and it forces you to stop. And within 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, it then eases off and goes off. But if you then have to climb up the stairs again, it'll happen again at the same time and keep going. So things that I would look out for are breathlessness, doing things that you would normally do easily, or chest pain coming on that stops you doing what you're doing, but comes on when you're doing something and eases off when you're resting.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. They're really key things for people to be aware of, I think.
Thank you, Anne and Rick, for another informative session. In our next episode, we'll be talking about exercise and how to keep your heart healthy, and checking if you're doing too much. You always remember you can pop to our website to find further information: www.alström.org.uk.